Your body has an organ you've never heard of. It's woven through every part of you: your skin, your gut, your lungs, your muscles. It carries roughly a fifth of all the fluid you carry, and until 2018, no one knew it was there. Not because it was hidden somewhere small and hard to reach, but because every time we tried to look at it, we destroyed it. Your body is doing something incredible right now. Come see it. For most of medical history, if you wanted to know what was inside a person, you had one option. You cut it out, you put it on a slide, you stained it, you looked at it under a microscope. That's how we learned almost everything we know about human anatomy. And it worked. Muscle, bone, nerve, blood vessel, kidney. Every organ in your body was mapped this way. By the middle of the 20th century, the anatomy textbooks were basically finished. The human body, we thought, was fully drawn. Then, in 2015, something odd happened in a hospital in New York. A pair of doctors were running a new kind of camera down a patient's bile duct. That's the small tube that carries digestive juice from your liver to your gut. The camera was thinner than a strand of spaghetti. It had a laser on the tip, and instead of just taking a photo, it could see living tissue as it worked, in real time, at very high magnification, without ever cutting anything out. They were looking for the early signs of cancer. What they saw instead was strange. The wall of the bile duct wasn't solid. It was a lattice, a web. Rows of thick fibers stretched across what looked like open, fluid-filled spaces. Room after room, all connected. That's not what the anatomy books said should be there. The anatomy books said the wall of the bile duct was a compact layer of solid, packed tissue. That was the entire story, and they had been saying that for 100 years. The doctors kept looking. They looked at the wall of the stomach. Same thing. Open spaces braced by fibers. They looked at the artery walls, the skin, the tissue around the lungs, the fascia between muscles. Everywhere they aimed the camera, they saw the same lattice, the same open, fluid-filled network, running through everything. It wasn't in any textbook. So they went back to check the classical anatomy. What had they been missing? How could every microscope slide for a century have gotten it this wrong? The answer turned out to be almost embarrassing. When you prepare a piece of tissue for a slide, you dehydrate it. You put it in a chemical bath that pulls the water out and hardens what's left, so you can slice it thin. That's been the standard for 100 years. But here's the thing. If a piece of tissue is held open by fluid, if the space itself is the point, then removing the fluid collapses the whole structure flat. The walls fall in on each other. The open compartments disappear. All that's left, when you finally look at it under the microscope, is a compressed line that looks like dense, packed tissue. We had been staring at this thing for 100 years. Every biopsy, every autopsy, every anatomy student, and every single time we had crushed it into invisibility before we ever looked. The team, led by Dr. Neil Thies and Dr. Petros Banias, published their findings in 2018. They gave the network a name, the Interstitium, and they laid out the case that it wasn't just a curiosity in the bile duct, it was one connected structure running through every organ in the body, a body-wide fluid highway that had been sitting there the entire time, hidden inside every anatomy dissection ever done.
So what does it actually do?
The most honest answer is, we're still figuring that out. This is science that's less than 8 years old. But 3 things are already becoming clear. First, it's a shock absorber. If you press on your skin, the fluid inside the interstitium moves. If you squeeze your gut, the fluid inside its walls moves. Those open, braced compartments let your organs bend and stretch and take a hit without tearing. Your body is essentially cushioned from the inside. Second, it's a shuttle. The fluid in the interstitium isn't stagnant. It drains slowly into a very old system that anatomy has known about forever, the lymphatic system, the body's second circulatory network. That means the interstitium is quietly picking up cellular waste, dead protein, and stray molecules from every corner of your body and moving them out. And third, and this is where the story gets darker, it may be one of the roads cancer uses to spread. When a cancer cell breaks off from a tumor, we've long known it can travel through the blood or through the lymph. But the fluid inside the interstitium, this newly named layer, is another possible route. A cell that gets loose in this network could ride the flow to almost anywhere in the body. Some researchers now think we've been watching cancer travel this highway for decades without realizing there was a highway. That's not proven yet, but it's why so many labs suddenly care about a tissue layer no one had ever named. There's one more thing worth sitting with. We tend to imagine science as a slow, orderly process, measured, edited, agreed on. And most of the time, it is. But sometimes, a group of people wheel a new camera into a hospital room and they point it at a place 1 million students have looked at before, and they see something no textbook has. The interstitium wasn't hiding. It was in you. It was in your grandmother. It was in every human body that has ever been drawn. We just kept squashing it flat before we could see it. And it's still there, right now, holding you open from the inside. When you take your next breath, your rib cage stretches, and the fluid inside its lattice slides. When you turn your head, the compartments in your neck deform and spring back. When you press your finger against your arm, an entire, quiet room and corridor system of your own body compresses and rebounds. You were made of it the whole time. Your body isn't finished being mapped. There are still organs inside you that anatomy hasn't gotten around to naming yet. The interstitium is just the first one we caught this century. If it took us until 2018 to see the largest one, imagine what's still hiding. Your body is doing something incredible right now. Come see it. If you like this one, come with us. There are hidden systems in your body we haven't shown you yet.
Vivovue.